Welcome everyone. We had a couple weeks off. We had some vacations and some fun times,
Yep.
or we just slept on a couch in our underwear. You can decide.
I mean, either way, that's how I spend my vacations anyway. So
Staycations.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is episode 8 of Slash Strange. We're going to talk a little bit tonight on the topic of time travel, and we got a couple fun stories. Whether or not you believe them or not, this is a topic that the stories are kind of hard to really prove in any way, shape, or form. It takes kind of a leap of faith to really
Yeah.
feel like, or to buy into or not buy into. And I feel like there's plenty of people on both sides of a topic like this, and as well with aliens and ghosts and all these strange topics that we cover, to where the people in the middle really enjoy this stuff because it's thought-provoking and you kind of suspend maybe reality momentarily and you enjoy what's going on with the topic. And then there's a side where these people are like, this is 100% accurate proof. And there's a side, and they'll do whatever and say whatever to prove it. And there's a side who's like, no, this is absolutely not factual. And they fight the exact same way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun. One of the stories, I think the last story we're going to cover, Rudolph Vince, kind of shows that, how there's yes, it is, no, yes.
Multiple layers of people thinking one way and then finding new information and maybe thinking a different way, and it goes back and forth all the time.
Right.
It's kind of like,
right.
And then there's just, it's like politics. There's people that are just like, nope, I'm not believing in any of this shit ever.
Right, no matter how much proof is presented to them.
But then there's those crazies that believe in everything that they hear, without question. So
Well, I looked up one single article on a website from a company I've never heard of, and I read it, so it has to be true.
exactly.
It's like they said, and it's too easy to post so much stuff. I mean, a handful of the articles I have pulled up are from things I'm not 100% familiar with.
Right.
And a lot of them are on paranormal, supernatural websites. I usually read 3 to 5 articles on a topic.
Yeah.
And I usually try to find one that is 100% against, one that's 100% for, and then let the others fall as they may.
Yeah.
Because I want to have all the pieces of information.
Just have all the pieces, present all the pieces of information that we have, and let you decide, or not. Just go along for the ride.
So we can have the full scope for the full discussion and really see what's there. So I think we were talking a little bit about how, though I don't think either of us would ever claim to be scientific or scientist.
No, definitely not.
I don't even measure correctly when it comes to making the gas I need for my weed eater. I just kind of wing it.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So there's no scientific in me at all. There's no scientist. Scientific. Right. There's no scientific in me. It's the next T-shirt.
There's no scientificness in you. Get it right.
I feel like that's even worse.
It is. It's way worse.
So we were looking into a little bit about how theoretically, traveling into the future isn't that complex. It's a matter of and I think it's a theory of the twin paradox is what they call it. And it's, if you have a twin sitting on Earth and then you launch yourself into space traveling at a fractional rate of light speed, which is still way faster than Earth, and you went up and down, the time that would travel on Earth as opposed to you and your ship would be completely different. It could be 5 years on Earth while it was only 2 years for you and your ship.
Because you're traveling at such a high rate of speed.
Now,
but it's not light speed.
Right, it's not light speed. It's a fraction of light speed, which is... Granted, I guess it could be 3/4, which would be pretty close.
It could be 80/81st of light speed. It'd be
true.
Super...
Not even close, but still really fast. I assume 1/80th of light speed is really fucking fast.
Probably.
I assume it's still really fast. The thing about that is time is still 2 years for you and it's 5 years for the people.
Right.
So technically when you get back it's 5 years later, so therefore you've technically shaved 3 years off the trip.
But it's still 2 years have only passed for you because...
Physically, mentally, your body was only aged 2 years. So you could kind of time skip. I'm going to call it skip.
Yeah.
Because you're boop, 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 little jumps. But... the problem is you can't get back as easily because according to most of the stuff, it's you have to travel faster than light speed to get back, which
is
Most
Could be
people say
possible.
it's impossible. Well, that's why most time travelers do come from the future, where they figured that shit out.
True. I want to know. I actually would like to know how fast, like, the space shuttle travels. Like how, and compared to like the speed of light, it's probably like.
Yeah, it's
stupidly
probably
slow.
not like
It's like stupid slow.
it probably is like ridiculously slow.
It'd be like comparing like a car on the highway to like an ant.
Yes, I believe that's probably very, very correct.
Yeah. So that'd be something that would be interesting for me to think about. But
So,
and then you were saying about the twin theory
or the grandfather theory is that
Yeah.
that's that part because and that's the one that we've all kind of heard of. It's kind of like goes into the whole butterfly effect and all that kind of stuff to where like if you went back in time and then you killed your granddaddy before he made your dad, you technically wouldn't exist in order to go back in time to kill your granddaddy before your daddy exists.
Right.
Therefore, you would never go back. So therefore, you would be, but then you would be, so you would go back, and then your brain explodes and
Yeah, that's what I'm
fucking
saying.
blood squirts out your nose because you can't figure it out. And it's every movie.
They find you and you're like
film.
a shell husk of a person because your brain just got destroyed.
Like every movie, every like film or story I've ever read involving time travel, there's always gets to a point in it where I'm just like,
Yeah, no.
wait a second,
You're
wouldn't
like,
this?
what?
And you have to like suspend, what is that called?
Suspension of disbelief.
Suspension of disbelief to kind of really enjoy some of that stuff. But it's so which is, I mean, technically, if you could travel back in time, you could do that. This erasing yourself. But then that gets into the whole thing that we're talking about with like parallel universes and time being at all the time being like at the same time. It's not like a timeline. It's not a actual measurement.
The
To
concept.
where, so and that's like a whole other level.
Yeah,
of
I
just
know, I was
Like,
gonna say, my
like
brain is
it's
about to
going
explode
so
right now.
deep in the weeds now because like, what if you do time travel and you went through a black hole to do it because you can't travel faster than light, but then you went into like you didn't just jump back in time, you went into like Earth 17, and then you killed your granddaddy on Earth 17, so you actually still exist on Earth 2 where you're from normally, and then
Can I just say that I really enjoy your like when you go into this situation, you'll be talking the way you are now, and then you'll be like, yeah, but god damn it, when you go back in time and get your daddy,
it's
it's
because my nose and my brain are starting to like pulsate blood.
yes.
So like I'm losing speech functionality while I'm trying to figure it out as I'm explaining it. So,
Great.
so I think I guess so theoretically time travel is possible
Easier to go forward than back.
and much easier to go forward than backward. I guess with that said, we can jump into one of our first fun little stories.
Yeah.
The time travel of
Sir Victor Goddard.
Let's not take away what he did
Right.
in World War II.
He was an air marshal for the Royal Air Force of Great Britain in 1935.
So roughly the same equivalent as far as like notability and respectability as a crack addict, as far as his word. No,
What?
no, it was a joke. I'm saying like this is someone of like
Yes.
like substance. It's not some
Yeah.
random bum. It's like this dude was knighted because he's a sir.
It's not that dude that you were just doing like the other day. Well, what happened to me was I time traveled back in the guy.
Right. And this is someone of like note. This is like someone
Yeah.
of like stature and position.
Right.
Not that their opinion is more important, but like
But you trust it more than like
I've
just
seen
some dude.
I've seen plenty of dudes on the street talking about the end of the world
Right.
in raggy ass clothings with needle marks. I've rarely seen a dude in a suit and a briefcase coming out of his CEO meeting talking about the
Right.
same topic. So
And you would definitely take it more seriously. But
so that was just my Joker point. So
Victor Goddard was an air marshal of the Royal Air Force of Great Britain in 1935. One day in 1935, he was flying to, I believe it's pronounced Edinburgh,
yep.
from Andover, England. And while he's on the flight, everything seemed to be normal. He passed over kind of a disused airfield in Drem, Scotland, and it had been long abandoned to the point where like there were trees and brushes and foliage and stuff taking over the runways, and there's just nothing there. Cattle were there. So that's what he saw when he was flying over. He made note of it. Continued on his way till he reached his destination at Edinburgh. A few days later, began his trip back to Andover. Took the same route. Once again, led him right over Drem in Scotland. And before he got to his destination, ran into a kind of a weird storm.
Not normal.
No, not normal.
Like dark
storm.
Clouds.
Not like perfect storm. You know, not normal. Whatever. It was kind of weird because apparently had high winds, torrential rain, but the storm clouds were yellow. You remember hearing about this?
Yellow. That's not a color.
Yeah, which I'm not gonna say that that's like necessarily like that weird, like because I've seen the sky be like some weird colors like that.
Right, at like dusk and dawn and stuff like that. But yeah, okay.
But he apparently became disoriented. He lost control of his plane. Tried to regain control by climbing above the yellow clouds, but he said that he could never get above them. They seemed to just be endless.
So endless piss clouds.
Yeah, endless clouds of piss. He just kept rising, whatever. So, at one point, he began to fall again in his plane, and the clouds broke, and he could see the ground again. So, like, the yellow clouds just disappeared. Off in the distance was the Drem airfield, the same airfield that we said there were cattle in. And
overrun by
vegetation and everything like that. So, sky turned bright and sunny. This is his own account. He said it happened pretty abruptly. Stopped raining. Visibility was good. But the airfield at Drem was no longer abandoned. There were actually, he said that it looked good as new. You could see mechanics on the runway. There were 4 airplanes. Each of them were painted yellow.
And there was, if I remember correctly, like 3 of them were like the typical biplane of the period.
Yep.
But one of them was not. It was...
one was a monoplane. And it was unlike anything that he'd ever seen in the Royal Air Force at that time in 1935. Grant, and he's not just like a guy. He's like...
Odd note, when I read this story, if there wouldn't have been pictures of a biplane and a monoplane, I wouldn't have like clicked the difference in my head.
Like with the wings?
Like the one that has 2 wings.
Yeah.
Like it has the underwing and the overwing above like the base of the body.
Yeah, that's
and
the
biplane. And then the mono
too.
has just the underside. Like, I don't know why, like when I heard biplane and monoplane, I wasn't thinking of wings for some reasons. But then I saw the picture, I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. So just as...
Yeah.
So if any of you were sitting there going, biplane.
So God damn it, what's a biplane?
Right.
So anyway, so he saw a monoplane, unlike anything that he'd seen in the Royal Air Force up until that time. And like I said, he's an air marshal in the Royal Air Force. He was knighted. He's not like he knows a bit about the Royal Air Force and what kind of planes they have there. He also noted that the mechanics, he said they were wearing blue overalls when they were working on the planes. And he found that really strange because they'd always worn brown overalls, never blue. And there were no yellow planes to his knowledge.
Right.
So he'd never seen the monoplane before. The planes were all painted yellow, which never happens in the RAF at that time. And they had brown overalls, the mechanics did. So, the storm apparently came back at some point during his flight, but he was able to kind of shake it. He landed, told everybody what happened, the same story that I just explained, and he was met with skepticism from a lot of people. No one really believed his story, so eventually he just stopped telling it, kind of started keeping it to himself, because like he didn't want to go around thinking, oh, there's that just crazy old kook that tells this story all the time.
And he flew through the yellow crazy storm, saw the
piss clouds,
and then he saw the new updated shiny base, and then he flew past it and entered another second storm.
Yeah.
And then came out and landed and was like, dude, this was crazy. What happened?
Yeah. Okay. So it was like on his return trip, entered the storm, saw the airfield nice, entered another storm, landed.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he stopped kind of telling the story, and then in 1939, apparently that Drem Airfield began being used again.
So
And
they
then
finally. So what the refurbished version of the base that he saw came to be.
Yeah. So basically, everything came to pass. Like the RAF painted their planes yellow. They had that new monoplane they called the Magister.
Great name for a plane.
Yeah,
I
it's
do like
awesome. I love it. And the mechanics overalls have been changed to blue. Creepy, right? Like 4 years later, like all the stuff that he said that he saw happened. So I'm pretty sure they didn't just hear his story and be like, let's just do all this. Let's just change all this
Right.
stuff. That would be hilarious though if they did hear the story and they're just like,
Hey,
guys, this is
like-
gonna be an awesome prank.
Like some other dude who was in charge of getting that base hated Victor because he was like a pilot and they both like knew each other.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, let's ruin
It's
this
like-
dude's.
Paint these planes yellow, man. Do these blue overalls. That's crazy. So that's really the story of Victor Goddard. Sir Victor Goddard. Excuse me. Yep. That's our first story.
That's so crazy. Like to see something and make a public declaration of it and kind of be cast aside and then 4 years later have it come to be. That's
Yeah.
pretty like.
Yeah, especially when it
This
looks
is-
like
It's like super. This is like super kind of random and odd, but I think about stuff like that when I think of things like Victor Van Gogh.
yeah, I'm not really super familiar with Victor
Well,
Van Gogh. Artist.
Considered one of the world's greatest painters, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, paintings are worth more than you and I will probably ever make, and all over the place. But in his actual lifetime, he was poor, broke, penniless, fucking killed himself. Like was like kind of ridiculed, considered like a joke. But he's out there doing these paintings that, for the most part, people thought were just kind of eh. And then fast forward to now, and he's a legend, and he never even got to experience any of that. But like, it's
Yeah.
like what he was doing, what he was experiencing, he was like ahead of his time in some way.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's. I mean, I'm not saying he was like a time traveler. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying like the whole like it's kind of cool that this dude got to see the thing that people thought he was skeptical about kind of come to be in like a 5 year span.
He had like a I told you so type of moment. Like it would be like, see, I'm not crazy, I'm not insane. Like you guys
Right.
thought I was.
Right. You know what I mean? And it just kind of, I don't know why, it was kind of when you were talking about that, it kind of made me think of, because I've thought about that before,
Yeah.
like how shitty that must have been to like never be recognized the way that you are hundreds of years after you died.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, so.
And we always talk about how people will make, like, some people will just make up bullshit stories and they just lie, like, about
Right.
stuff. And, you know, some people believe them. But I think it's also, that's shitty of people to do and it's sad and stuff that happens. But this is like, it's super sad to me. Like, this dude would come down and be like, guys, I saw this. And everybody's like, you're just an idiot. You know what I mean? Or like, what? And he was
Well,
like,
I mean-
felt kind of alone probably to have that vision and not.
Not
Have
right,
be
that
believed by
vision or to
anybody.
physically travel through time, whatever actually happened to him.
Yeah.
And it is, but I mean, at the same time, it's not that unrealistic to think so, because like, if you drove to my house
Yeah.
and we're like, dude,
Oh, yeah, I know.
there was like a giant fucking like school, which there is now, but like when I moved in, there wasn't a school over here.
Yeah.
Like if you go past
Yeah.
my street,
Yeah.
there is now, which they built that entirety without me noticing it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't-
crazy.
I don't even
It'll
think
blow
I
your
know
mind if you go that way. So, but like if you came to my house like years ago before it was built, like dude, when they built that school, I was like, dude, there's no school there, and we drove over there, and there's no fucking school there. What am I supposed to think? Like,
Yeah.
But
right.
then like fucking 5 years later, there's just a school there. Like,
Yeah. And,
Shit, dude, I'm
not,
sorry.
There's not just a school there, but like you called the like color of the bricks and like the windows and like
Right.
all, you know.
specific random details that you're 100% pinpoint on. Yeah, it's crazy, man. So Sir Victor Goddard.
Goddard. So
Luckily, the next story has a much easier name to pronounce.
oh yes.
Haken Nordqvist.
Sure, that's as good as I'm gonna do.
So this story comes from August 30th, 2006. And Haken Nordqvist, which is Swedish, I do believe.
It's
Yeah,
like
Sweden?
some sort of.
I said in Sweden, yes. So I would assume Swedish.
Swedish.
Came home from work one day, and this is pretty. This is a short and fun story in my
Yeah,
mind.
that's short.
So he comes home from work one day, and he's setting down his stuff, and he looks over and he notices that there's some water coming from somewhere, and he thinks the sink's leaking. He opens it up, sees a leak, and he's like, "Fuck, I don't want to deal with this shit. I just got home from work." At least that's how I would be in that moment.
Yeah.
Goes and gets some tools, comes back, and he starts reaching back, trying to reach where this leak is, and it's like the farther he stretches, it kind of just is always out of his reach. So he keeps kind of reaching to the point that he's like crawling up inside of his sink. And I know this sounds crazy, like you guys listening right now, like, you know, this is like an acid trip type of thing. So he keeps reaching for it, and he at this point he's like crawling in his sink. Which you can see pictures of the sink online. You can watch. He filmed a video, not of him traveling through the tunnel, which I would have loved to have seen,
another like.
but
part
of
later.
the end part of the journey.
Yeah.
So as he's going and going and going, all of a sudden there's a light towards the end, and he stops worrying about the leak, and he goes to the light, and he gets to a part where he can stand up, and he ends up in this field, and he's looking at an older man, and it's himself. It's the 72-year-old version of himself. And I would say he was in his 30s at this point.
Well, so the year was 2042.
So, and it was from 2006, so it was like
whatever,
38 years.
Sure.
Math. So, yeah, so he's probably in his 40s, 30s to 40s, somewhere in that range. And there's a short video, and you can see he's a bald gentleman, and the older version is bald. They have very similar facial features. It would not surprise me that if you took one of those like sketch artists who draw age pictures, I don't know, like for the police, where like someone's been
what would
gone
this
for
person
5, 10
look like
years now type thing.
Yeah.
If you had him draw something in the future, I would not be surprised if you found very similar image drawn of him. They have one of the things in the video, when you watch it, they both turn and look at each other, and it's almost like a silhouette shot because the sun is behind them. And look at the nose, the bridges they have. They have very large noses in this. Just the dude does, whatever.
Yeah.
But they have very similar nose arches and bridges, and ears are kind of similar, and facial features are super similar. And then the video cuts down to their arms where they both share the same tattoo.
Right.
So some things that that's pretty much the story. Like he came back, and I guess he crawled back through, fixed his sink, and went on about his life. Things that, I mean, obviously it's like a crazy, overwhelming story. It's not like I flew through the air, I saw something.
Yeah, like I literally climbed under the sink cabinet and
Right.
then I was transported to a field where I saw an older. He said he did a lot of tests on the guy, like, so he asked him where he hid his secret stuff when he was in first grade, what score there was a soccer match in like 1988 or something, and like the guy himself, like the older version, knew all that stuff apparently.
Yeah.
Like he knew all the stuff that only he would know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Shared personal information that only the true Hopkin would know. It's very... Well, like, the guy hasn't really, like, as far as my knowledge go, used it to try to, like, make money, or... He's more or less like, it was cool, it was a crazy experience, it was a great day in my life. I don't really care what other people think, if it's real or not.
Yeah.
And that's it, like...
Which makes me less suspicious, because like if somebody's doing peddling these stories, and they're like, I have this book, I'm selling, and they're like, I'm trying to do this, like, then you're like,
and maybe he is, and I just haven't found it, but like, I haven't seen
how
anything.
crazy is it for us to be like, to say like I don't believe him, but then like we were just talking about the Goddard guy who like no one believed him,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So,
But I mean, it's just, like, there is like a level there, right? I mean,
yeah, there is a different type of.
If I came to your house and was like, dude, that house over there was on fire, that's somewhat believable.
Yeah.
If I came to you and I was like, dude, there's a monster with tentacles and a laser eye
Right.
attacking your neighbors down the street, you're gonna be like, I don't think so at all. Like,
It is a different level.
Like, it's just
It's a little less believable than the Goddard guy.
right, because the Goddard guy was a simple event, him just doing his day to day. This one, that starting point of the rabbit hole, the black hole in the sink, essentially, that took him to the future, which is interesting. And like I said, he doesn't really shoot anything else around him. There's no sound. There's like little things that I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah.
I mean, it is 2006, so the quality of like cell phone camera footage isn't fantastic, but
Yeah, I think in 2006, only like there was like the first iPhone, I think, what came out just then. But yeah, so that's just a little.
here's what we need to do.
What we need to do.
We need to find this guy
Haken Nordqvist.
in 42.
In the year 2042, we need to find him, see what he looks
When
like.
when he finds his younger self.
Oh yeah,
That's how we prove this.
yeah, because we technically could prove it in that year if it happens.
Right.
There you go. So
30 years from now, we'll have an answer for every
yes,
one of you.
stay tuned.
Sweden trip. Yeah. So that is the man who met himself under his kitchen sink, but actually in a field at the end of a
Yeah.
tunnel at the end of his kitchen sink.
So the next one we have is the man. It's called the Man from Torred.
Which this one is possible time travel, possible
It's just weird.
parallel universe
Yeah.
step. It could be a couple different things
Could
of that
be
nature.
could be a parallel universe type of shit. I'll give you the details and you can decide. But it's the Man from Torred, and if you want to look it up, it's Taured. This is in 1954. Takes place in Tokyo at the Haneda Airport. It was basically a routine day. European inbound plane dropped off its passengers.
Oddly, just gonna put this out there real
Yeah.
quick. There's a lot of these, like a lot of stories of time travel and stuff like that have to do with like planes.
Yeah, that is true. There's some sort of like vehicle or something.
Yeah, some sort of vessel. Yeah. So
Yeah. So it was inbound plane to Tokyo from Europe. I don't know exactly where they were coming from. But anyway, the passengers get off. The crowd makes their way through customs. There's a neatly dressed, middle-aged Caucasian man. He got to the officials and he said that it was a normal business trip for him. 1 out of 3 that he took to Japan this year so far. Primary language he spoke was French, but he also did speak Japanese, so he was able to converse with them, fluently. Spoke several other languages. This one gets a little weird shortly after this. In his wallet, a variety of currencies from different European countries, as if to verify, his frequent flyer status. So they said, where's your country of origin? Where do you live? And he said he lived from Torred. He lived in Torred, which he said was on the border between France and Spain when they asked him.
check out a map. It ain't there.
And they said, doesn't exist, bro. And he goes, I assure you that it does, because here's my passport. Apparently they took it. It was a passport from Torred.
Super official looking.
Yeah. Showed visa stamps for his other travels to Japan, like the other ones that year that he said earlier.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Have you ever traveled out of country?
I have not. Actually, I have. I've gone to Mexico.
Visa stamps.
Yeah.
Does it have anything to do with the actual credit card company?
I have no idea. That's
Okay.
a good question.
I'm sorry. That's
Yeah, because I would say like, here's my travel visa.
like, yeah. Does
It might be that the card is named after that, as in like a worldwide. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know what Visa stands for. So
So he said he's meeting with a company for business. They called the company. The company did exist in Japan, but the company said never heard of him, never heard of anything his country, whatever. So he called the hotel that he had a reservation for. They said, we have no reservation for you. We have nothing, no records for you. And the bank that was on his checkbook didn't exist, apparently. So the man from Torred apparently at this point thought it was some sort of like practical joke type of thing, like somebody was playing like a prank on him or something. So the officials like just bust out a world map and they're like, here, look, like Dylan said a second ago, like it's not there. There's a country that exists there and it's called Andorra, Andorra. And they said, is this the country that you're from? And you're just kind of mistaken, or you're making a joke about this or whatever. And the guy actually at that point got pissed. He got very irate. Said Andorra didn't exist, but Torrid did, and Torrid was should have been on that place in the map. And he said his country had existed for thousands of years. He was shocked, pretty irate at this point. So they give him a room in a nearby hotel for the night. Following morning, he completely vanishes from the hotel. It was guarded by immigration officers all night long. All his personal documents, his passport, driver's license, issued by Torrid, vanished from the security room. Apparently, police and airport officials searched around. They found nothing. So he's just gone without a trace.
Just vanished from a hotel room.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. So, like, obviously there's no documents to point to because they say they vanished, which is kind of, like, convenient sounding. Like, oh, there's nothing left. So I can't see the passport from Torrid and whatever. But it's just a weird story. So it could be, like you said, something to do with, like, a parallel universe where there's, like, an alternate timeline, type of situation.
Right.
Or it could be a time travel deal, like...
Unfortunately, this is one of those stories where there's, like, no real documented proof.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad. It's a very interesting story. I don't know if it's, the validity of reality behind it. Mm-hmm. But, I mean...
I think it's funny how, like, he apparently thought that they were playing a joke on him.
Yeah.
They're just like, all right, guys, I seriously have a business. Like, this is a business trip for me. I need to get going. Like,
I got like shit I have to do.
Yeah.
They should have let him go. That way they could just see him lose his mind because the company he was probably going to visit had no knowledge of him coming.
Just see him, like, walk into that company. Like, all right, I'm here for whatever.
Yeah, and that's the thing with a lot of these stories. There's like we talked about that willingness of, like, suspending disbelief to take it all in, because it's the crazy stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all crazy stories.
Yeah.
I mean, some are more than others. I think this last one is one of the craziest.
I think so. I agree. And that's why it's like the best for last type of situation, because this one has a lot of twists and turns in it.
So many of you may, if you're watching this stuff, you probably listen to stuff like this on other places. I doubt we're the ones introducing you to time travel stories. Maybe we are. I don't know. But it's the strange case of Rudolph Fentz, the easiest name.
Like F-E-N-T.
Scratch that. The man from Torrid doesn't have a name, so that's probably the
that's
easiest.
that's a pretty easy one.
So, the quick overview of the story. In 1950, a man with mutton chop sideburns, which were not in fashion in the 50s.
No, definitely not.
They were more... 50s was like a clean shave period of time. Very, very clean shave period of time from America.
Yeah.
And in Victorian era threads. See how I took the old school with the new.
Yep. Threads. Victorian threads.
Just appeared in Times Square. Witnesses said he looked startled, and then a minute later he was hit by a car and killed. So very short time travel period.
So he was there for like a minute.
Yeah, minute. Some of the stories say he kind of just stood there, freaked out, and then a car hit him. Some say he took off running and then got hit by a car. So officials of the morgue searched his body and found the following items: a copper token for a beer worth 5 cents, bearing the name of a saloon which was unknown even to older residents of the area; a bill for the care of a horse. In New York, there's lots of people with horses to take care of.
So already you can just kind of see this is not really adding up for the time period at all.
And the washing of a carriage drawn by livery stables on Lexington Avenue that was not listed in any address book, about $70 in old banknotes, business cards with the name Rudolph Fentz and an address on Fifth Avenue, and a letter sent to him to this address in June 1876 from Philadelphia. And none of the objects apparently had shown any real signs of aging, even though the paper that the letter was written on was old and whatnot. So
It seemed like they were like antiques or anything like that.
So a gentleman by Captain
It's another ridiculous, weird name.
Hubert V. Ream of the Missing Persons Department of New York City tried using this information to identify the man. He found the address on Fifth Avenue was part of a business and that his current owner did not know Rudolph Fentz. Fentz's name was not listed in the address book, his fingerprints were not recorded anywhere, and no one had reported him missing. Granted, we don't have quite the sophisticated missing person systems we have today and that we had in the 50s, but still. He continued his investigation and finally found Rudolph Fentz Jr. in the telephone book, telephone book from 1939. So he kind of went to the archives, got an old phone
So
book
like
out.
11 years
Prior
to this,
to this
right?
event.
This is 1950?
Yes, this is 1950.
Okay.
He spoke to the residents of an apartment building at the listed address who remember Fentz and described him as a man about 60 years who had worked nearby, and after his retirement, he moved to an unknown location in the 40s. Contacting the bank, Captain Ream was told that Fentz died 5 years before, but his widow was still alive and living in
Junior,
Florida.
right?
Yes, Fentz
Okay.
Jr.
I'm just trying to also keep this all like.
Yeah. And when he contacted the widow, and the widow had said that her husband, Fentz Jr.'s father, had disappeared in 1876 at the age of 29, that he had left the house for an evening walk and never returned. So that's kind of like the story. So it's like, ooh.
So when you put those pieces together, you're like, okay.
So dude disappears in 1876, reappears in the 50s, gets hit by a car, killed him. Guy tracks down possible relatives, and they find out that the relative's father disappeared in that time, like that time period. So, but then later on, it was discovered that there was a short story published, and there was a lot of times where it was like a lot of the published in 52, if I remember correctly, was the original
When
posting.
the original story was published?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I'll try to look up why you're doing that too. Because
No, here we go.
There's some twists and turns that happen here. Well, let's look it up. Hold on.
So the story was published. This story that I just kind of went through was published a number of times in the 70s and 80s as fact. Until 2000, a Spanish magazine, folklore researcher Chris Abeck investigated the description to check the veracity. Included that people the events of the story invented were all fictional, although he could not find the original source. So this was 2000.
Yeah. So in 70s and 80s, you said that people were printing them as truth, like a true story.
Right.
And then in 2000, somebody said nope, it's fiction, but they couldn't locate the story.
But they couldn't pinpoint why it was fiction.
Yeah. Okay.
So then Pastor George Murphy claimed in 2002 that the original source was either from 1952 Robert Heinlein's science fiction anthology entitled Tomorrow, the Stars, or the Collier's magazine from 15th of September 1951. The true author was renowned science fiction writer Jack Finney, who lived from 1911 to 1995, and the Fentz episode was part of a short story called I'm Scared, which was published in Colors first. This meant that the fictional character and the source of the story were finally identified. So everyone thought. So everybody thought it was just fiction. They're like,
Right.
yeah,
we got this story. You know, we know where it came from.
but no copies of the story have ever been found. And Finney died before anyone could really question him or ask him about it. And in 2007, a researcher working for Berlin News Archive found a newspaper story in the archives from April 1951 reporting the story in almost the exact details that I just gave. And that newspaper article was printed 5 months prior to the short story sourced as the origin.
So now, and then it kind of
So now it flips
was
back around and saying that there was a news article prior to the short story, and it's possible that Jack Finney got the idea from the news article and wrote the story. Even odder is there's a number of researchers who have claimed that they found evidence of a real Rudolph Fintz and proof of his disappearance around in 1876.
Wow.
But there's no real backing to that. So this story literally goes like, oh, that's a really crazy story. It's 100% fake. Hold on, maybe not.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it goes crazy story. This is fake, but I can't prove that it's fake. Okay, this is 100% fake. Hold on a second.
All right, so maybe not.
So whether or not Rudolph Fintz time traveled and Jack Finney wrote a story about it, or Jack Finney wrote a story about time travel and people are dumb as shit and reported it as truth.
Could be.
It could go either way. It's definitely a strange and bizarre and excellent.
Well, like sometimes people leave out though, and I think it's important that you told like that last part about it being sort of fake and then not, and then going back and forth. Because if you leave that part out, and then somebody's just like skimming, like when I was researching this stuff, like I was skimming articles, and a bunch of people left that out. So somebody just said that it was fake, and like, oh, this is from a story, and I was like, oh,
right, or
probably fake.
And with it being the internet, you could be reading an article from 2006 about it,
Right.
And then
True.
this information didn't come out till 2007, and so it's easy. That's why I always try to find the newest articles in hopes that it includes everything.
Yeah.
But you don't really know what to look for if you don't know the details, and you got to find them to know the details.
Exactly.
So that was 4, I think. We did 4 nice little stories of time travel.
Yup. And talked briefly in the beginning about, the
Theoretical time travel. So, I mean, if you think about all of it, I mean, it's some interesting stuff. Almost all of these cases. No, scratch that. Sir Victor Goddard traveled to the future.
Yes, 4 years in the future.
Rudolph Fintz traveled to the future.
Yep.
The other 2, and so did
Haken. What was his name? I don't want to mess it up. Dun, 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 stand by, hold music. Dun, dun, dun. Haken Nordqvist.
Future.
Traveled to the future, met his older self. What was the other one?
And the man from Tord is the one that's like...
It's like,
not
just like oddball, weird.
Possible time travel, possible parallel step.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
Or both. Could we both?
I think we had one story about traveling back, but we had so much bad information on it that we decided not to use it.
Yeah, it was like one of those stories where it was kind of more suspect that it could be fake, and or it was like leaning that way.
We found more information about it being fake, or more things that pointed to it being fake than things that pointed to the possibility of there being truth to it.
And we don't want to do that. We don't want to like just...
So since we didn't feel like the rest of these, we feel that there's elements to it that make us go like, not necessarily that it's true, but like,
could be.
There's no reason to lie.
Right.
Scenario.
Right.
So, yeah. So if you guys know some time travel stories that we didn't find, let us know. You can email them to us or message us. All of our information's down there.
Yep.
Hit that follow or hit the subscribe button and that thumbs up button. That stuff super helps us out.
If you also want, you can subscribe to us on iTunes. Also, we're on iTunes also /
All that stuff's down at the bottom. Check out our other shows. They're completely different than this.
Comedies, basically.
We appreciate all you guys checking the stuff out, watching it, just spending some time with us. There's so many things you can do with your time nowadays that you choose to spend an hour with us, and it's fantastic, man. We do appreciate all you guys who have been commenting and watching and subscribing to our channel.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that out there.
Me too.
It's really great to see a little bit of growth happening.
Yeah, and seeing people commenting and like, even if it's like, oh, you guys missed this, or I really wish you guys would have covered this, or whatever. We like the constructive feedback too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And also, you can always shoot us an email or a message if there's a topic, a story, anything in the paranormal, strange world that you would like to see us maybe research and give you our opinion on. Send it to us. We'll check it out.
We love that.
Maybe there's something you've wanted to check out, but you're lazy and you just want to make us do your grunt work.
That's fine. We'll do it.
We'll do it. Just
No
send it
problem.
to us.
All right.
But I guess what was the last one? Was like, I guess, try to stay alive. I can't remember. I signed off in like a really like odd way to where you
die.
where you just like burst up laughing.
I don't remember what it was.
So
Hit that subscribe. We'll be at you in a week.
if you open your pantry for some Cheetos and there's a black spinning vortex, go talk to yourself in the future.
Yeah.
See if they bring back that Mulan sauce.
All right. Good night.
Good night.